Hi everyone. So today I'm going to draw the third cactus. Actually, I don't know why, but I watched back the video before and I kept saying cacti. Cacti is the plural of cactus. So I thought to do 3 small cacti illustration with flowers, you know, on them as well. And what I find actually from my last experience is that I tend to draw better straight onto paper rather than sketching something out because I don't know, it somehow seems to be better for me. So I'm going to use an HB pencil, and this is the one that I sharpened myself, so it's got a nice point to it. Let's start. I'm going to create these lovely cactus shapes. Okay, so I'm going to move on to watercolor now, and I will do a similar thing that I have done for the previous 2 illustrations, just keeping it nice and interesting. As you can see, I've got nice colors going on in my little palette tray over here, and I'm thinking what it's a good idea. So I'm going to mix up a lovely green, and I'm going to do that by adding a bit of yellow into the Mayan blue and just start that way. So I'm going to do section by section because I want the colors to be slightly different, but I'm also making sure I'm leaving some highlights in those sections. So I'm going to add a bit of blue, a bit of green, a bit of yellow, and just carry on like that. You also will notice that I'm leaving the sections, there's like a line I'm leaving between the sections so that the colors don't flow into one another just yet. And so, as you can see, that yellow is now starting to be a little bit too dominant. So I'm going to add the same yellow into the other greens and work it that way. I'm also going to add some of the green from here into there, like so. And I actually really like this color combination, so I'm going to move in onto the next cacti, and that one I'm going to do more in a blue toned, so it's still green as you can see, but I'm just going to go ahead and make sure I don't have that much water in my brush. And then carry on into this one. I'm going to mix in the Ultramarine turquoise because it's a lovely color, but I do want to make sure that it's not going to pull into that phthalo green because it's a color that needs mixing, which you can see at the moment. So we do need to make sure we're going to work with every section of the cacti. So here I'm adding a bit more of that blue. Wherever the highlights are too big, I'm just going to try and minimize them. So I'm bringing in the blue here and here as well, just to connect these parts. So it's a lovely color, very deep. And then for this one, I want that sort of like a grayish kind of blue. I'll just see how I can mix the right color. So Payne's grey is a good way of mixing that type of a color. So I'm just going to have a little bit of that ultramarine turquoise into Payne's grey and Mayan blue genuine, and you can see that's the perfect color. And again, I will do the same thing and create a nice variety. It almost looks a bit too blue on the camera, but that's predominantly because it's a little bit watered out at the minute. So I'm just going to so at this point I will quickly give this a wash, and then I'm going to go into the greens and the yellows from before to make it sort of connect to one another. So let's see, I've got some of that yellow which I can dab into here. So you have to do this rather quickly while the watercolor is still dry, because otherwise you will start glazing, and it looks quite nice when it sort of flows out, if you know what I mean. So actually this looks quite nice because in some areas the color is reminiscent to this one and some here, and then you have the first wash coming through of that blue, which I quite like. But I have to say that I wish that blue was a little bit more intense, so I'm going to try and just add it on top in some areas. Okay, so that's it for cacti, and now I'm going to go into sub green and then make these stalks that will be holding the flowers rather dark, and I'm not again touching them just yet. Here you need to kind of do a lot of water control because this brush will hold a lot of water, not as much as a real squirrel hairbrush or one of those, but basically it still does. So just make sure you don't lose control. And then now I'm going to touch that together and make hopefully the color travel up. And now onto these lovely flowers. Now the what I'm thinking of doing this time is actually keeping it quite pink, because I looked back at the other two. This is the Rhodonite Genuine. At the other two illustrations, and I really liked the pink I would start with, but then I would lose it by adding the yellow. So I think today I want to keep it pink. I want to have one illustration with pink flowers because that will also be a nice bit of a contrast. But I do want a little bit of depth in some of these petals, so I'm going to try hopefully and do that by maybe adding like a darker color. We'll see. So if you want to know what exactly watercolors I'm using and you want to follow, there is going to be a link in the description where you can click onto it, and it will take you to the video where I set this palette up. You can watch that if you wish. If you don't and you just want to know the colors, what you can do is basically have a look at the there will be of the description in that video. There will be a list of all the colors that are in this palette. So here I'm just helping the watercolor to move up a little bit, but I'm also lifting some of it where I find it a little too much, and I'm trying to create a variation here of different pinks and some reds, and that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm going to darken this one up just a touch. This one I'm quite happy with, and the big flower still needs a little bit of work, and I think I'm going to go into this dark red, and essentially I haven't decided what color I'm going to put into the center of this flower here, but let me try and add it into this one like so. Okay, so while that's happening, I'm going to go into the Payne's Grey and just create a little shade here. Okay, so I think I'm going to try and dry this and then come back to add some details. Okay, so actually having looked at it, and I decided to kind of mix up a color similar to this, like a yellowy greeny color, to add into the center. I think it would be quite nice to repeat this color in the flower, and I'm going to try and think what I used. Yeah, this is quite a similar color here. And I want it to be a bit more yellow than green, so I'll be careful not to add too much green. I'm going to lift it, and then I'm going to add a bit of the yellow. Like so. So that is quite nice in my opinion. I actually like it a bit more greener. There you go. So I will leave it like that, and I won't do much to it. I might take it out onto the petals just to merge the two colors together, like so. It is a glaze essentially, so it might just pull a few bits of that red into the middle, but it won't be too much. So while it's going to be kind of merging and blending, I'm going to take my black Polychromos. Okay, so for this level of detailing, you want to make sure that your pencil is nice and sharp, and I just sharpened mine, and I'm going to just ever so gently draw these centers in, like so. I don't want there to be too many of them, but I do want a couple like that. So I'm going to do the same on this flower. Okay, and then I'm going to I have to wait until this one is dry to be able to do that. But meanwhile, I can just dot in little spikes of these cactus. So just here and there, not too many. And I want them to be quite small, not as long as the previous ones, because these 3 cacti are quite small. So that's it, and then just checking where the watercolor is fully dry, like so. And maybe one more here, like that. Okay, so yeah, let's come back one more time when the center is dry and I can finish it off. Okay, so basically this is what's left to do, and I just kind of like almost like doodles into the center here, just to create a little texture. And I kind of do maybe 3/3 of it, don't do the whole flower, and then a couple of these ones. And they, as you can see, they're going to be a lot darker because they're going over watercolor, which is fine. I'm going to leave it at that. So one last thing to do is to remove pencil lines where you can see them too much. So for example, there are a few places here. I'm not going to remove it everywhere just because there is no need. I actually like the pencil showing in some areas, but where it is a little bit too obvious and where it's really not needed, then I might as well remove it. And of course, as always, make sure before you do that that the watercolor will be completely dry in that area where you're removing it. And that is it, really. Okay, so I'm going to now clean it off and put it into the frame and take a picture for you so you can see what it looks like in the frame. And yeah, it's going to be the same IKEA frame as the other two cacti illustrations, and it's called the Reba frame, in case you're interested. So that is it. Thanks for watching and see you soon.